A 74-year-old man found outside an alleged unlicensed assisted living home covered in maggots. Another 77-year-old man discovered lying in a bed covered in feces, a soiled diaper found in his mouth.
America, first we caught Baltimore running massive nonprofit fraud schemes, and now we've uncovered something even more sinister. They're trafficking seniors for their Social Security benefits while their state government watches and does absolutely nothing.
We're discovering older adults are being trafficked for their Social Security benefits, veterans benefits, labor, sex, and possibly body parts.
Maryland's healthcare department has received over 13,000 complaints about these facilities in just 3 years, and they've only referred 2 cases for prosecution. Meanwhile, Governor Wes Moore's office, radio silence.
As part of our ongoing investigation into senior trafficking allegations involving vulnerable adults in unlicensed assisted living facilities, our team has attempted to speak with Maryland Governor Wes Moore.
Investigations have shown hundreds, if not thousands, of seniors here in the state of Maryland are living in unlicensed assisted living. I'm sorry.
Today, so you up there?
Okay.
We were shut down.
What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. We're about to expose a billion-dollar underground industry that's been operating in Maryland neighborhoods for years while state officials deliberately look the other way. Let me break down exactly how this trafficking operation works, because it's a lot more sophisticated than you think and a lot more evil than you can imagine. These traffickers have well-oiled machines, a literal playbook for exploiting vulnerable seniors.
I mean, these traffickers, they have no morals. They will recruit anywhere they can. Seniors are funneled into these underground operations.
Here's the pipeline. Traffickers recruit vulnerable seniors from hospitals, homeless shelters, jails, churches, and even public benefit offices. They promise safe housing and care, but once the seniors enter the system, they become absolute cash cows for these businesses, trading between facilities like baseball cards. Maryland has identified 119 suspected unlicensed facilities operating in just Baltimore City alone. These aren't some kind of small-time operations. We're talking about seniors packed into basements, anywhere from 14 to 20 people living in a single space with basically nothing.
It kind of sheds light on the seriousness of what this is. Yes, this is money, and yes, this is government benefits, but these are people.
And here's the sick part about this. These operators charge anywhere from $600 to $1,000 per month just for residential services, excluding additional services, capturing residents' Social Security and disability benefits, while licensed facilities cost upwards to $4,000, excluding additional services. We're talking like pill management, therapy, things like that. The gap creates billion-dollar underground economies that Maryland officials have known about, get this, since 2019. When we catch Baltimore and nonprofit fraud allegations, now we find out they're trafficking seniors. Now, let me tell you guys about Daniel Jenkins, an 85-year-old man with dementia whose death exposes exactly how deadly this system really is.
On March 3rd, 2019, Baltimore police found 85-year-old Daniel Jenkins dead on Edison Highway in the city's east side. Court records show the elderly man who had dementia wandered away from the unlicensed assisted living home.
This is absolutely wild. Jenkins was placed in an unlicensed assisted living home on North Learn Street. 4 days later, he wandered away. Nearly 12 hours, no one reported him missing to the police. When his daughters called asking about their father, the staff told them he was fine, adjusting, and was with staff. He wasn't with staff. He was alone, cold, wandering the streets of East Baltimore. Police found him dead from hypothermia. An autopsy confirmed he froze to death while the facility lied to the family about his particular whereabouts. This case is one of the rare Maryland prosecutions revealed this particular playbook. Investigators found operators housed more than 100 vials of residents' prescription medications in her car. Workers were paid $50 a week under the table and lived in the same rooms as the people that they were supposed to supervise. This is racketeering. This is organized crime. And Maryland's government response, they made it a felon to operate unlicensed facilities in 2023. Guess how many prosecutions have happened since then? 0. Zero, not a single prosecution, despite hundreds and hundreds of complaints.
Class action lawsuit filed against the agency last year alleges the health department failed to respond to half of more than 13,000 complaints received 3 years prior.
Let me repeat that just in case you guys didn't hear that. 13,000 complaints about vulnerable seniors being abused, neglected, and exploited. The state health department responded to only half. And of those they did investigate, they referred only 2 cases for prosecution since 2023, since the law was made a particular felony. When reporters pressed Maryland's Deputy Secretary of Health about why unlicensed operators are allowed to continue operating, she gave the most bureaucratic non-answer that I've ever heard.
Why would there be any ability for people to continue to operate one and not refer it and follow the law?
So first, I want to just thank you again for putting a spotlight on this issue. I think I also cannot emphasize enough that we believe every facility that is operating needs to be following the appropriate statutes and laws. And if it's providing services that require a license, it needs to have a license.
Why would you guys continue to allow operators to find and seek out a license when the agency and the AG said that we have to close a loophole?
I think as you're highlighting, again, this is an issue that is an incredible priority for us.
This is an incredible priority to us. Translation, we don't care. We're not doing anything about it. And we hope you stop asking questions.
This is either indifference or just lack of caring.
Maryland State Delegate Mike Griffiths says the lack of direct answers by the state health department is unacceptable.
Until we start holding people accountable in these institutionalized positions, we're not going to see any type of change.
Now let's talk about Governor Wes Moore, the man who campaigned on leaving nobody behind. But he spent months dodging questions about seniors being trafficked in his own state. Spotlight on Maryland spent a month negotiating a sit-down interview with the governor. They accepted all of his terms. Then, the day before the scheduled interview, Moore's office abruptly canceled and tried to substitute his chief of staff instead.
Look, after a month of negotiations with this office, that interview was abruptly canceled and shifted to you. Do Marylanders deserve to hear from their governor on this critical issue?
I think the governor has responded to questions on this, and certainly the governor's office, especially the Maryland Department of Health, who specifically works on this issue, we're the subject matter experts who can both specifically talk to the details of the issue.
When reporters drove to the New Year's Eve rescheduled interview, Moore's team made another abrupt change, switching to his public relations officer instead. So instead of hearing from the elected governor, Marylanders got a PR flack reading talking points. To summarize everything, here are the talking points. File complaints with the health department, same health department that ignored 13,000 complaints and referred only 2 prosecutions.
Because the only way we can solve a problem is if we know about a problem. So I would encourage your audience and the public to go to the Maryland Department of Health website and file if they see something that they're concerned about, they should file complaints so we can investigate it thoroughly.
This, my friends, is gaslighting at its finest. We only solve problems we know about, except you've known about this problem since 2019, when Daniel Jenkins froze to death. You received 13,000 complaints. You've conducted multiple audits. You've had city fire departments discover unlicensed facilities during emergency calls. The problem isn't that you didn't know. The problem is that you don't care. So how does a billion-dollar senior trafficking industry operate in plain sight for years? It's a perfect storm for government failure. And I'm going to break down exactly what's broken.
So before that, they would just say, like, get out of here, call my lawyer, where's your warrant, kind of thing. But now we have right of entry at that point.
First, Maryland doesn't have any right of entry laws like Hawaii. That means when health inspectors show up at suspected unlicensed facilities, operators can literally tell them to get lost and call their lawyer. Without a warrant, inspectors have no authority to enter. Second, Maryland doesn't publicly list operators of unlicensed facilities like Florida and Tennessee do. So these traffickers can operate completely unsuspected. Your neighbor could be running one of these operations and you'd never even know. Third, Maryland's health department is woefully understaffed. When you ask how many inspectors investigate unlicensed facilities, the deputy secretary can't even answer the question. She has no idea how many inspectors they have or what their caseloads actually look like.
The question is, how many current inspectors do we have that are investigating assisted living facilities?
Correct, and unlicensed, yes.
Yes, I don't have that exact number with me right now, but we can get that back to you.
Fourth, and most importantly, there is zero political will to prosecute. Making something a felony means absolutely nothing if you never enforce the law. And Maryland officials have made it crystal clear they'd rather allow seniors to be trafficked than risk being called a racist for investigating predominantly immigrant-run facilities. America, an attorney who litigates elderly abuse cases, said it perfectly.
What we have is a quiet generation slowly slipping away, and nobody's noticing. If this was children or millennials screaming in the streets and marching, you would see much more attention to it.
If this was happening to children, there will be federal task forces, 24/7 news coverage, and politicians falling over themselves to fix it. But because it's something happening to elderly people, many of them poor, disabled, or suffering from dementia, Maryland's government treats it like an inconvenient paperwork problem. Governor Wes Moore promised to leave no one behind, but he's left behind 119 facilities full of seniors being exploited for their benefits. He's left behind the family of Daniel Jenkins, who froze to death while an unlicensed operator lied about his whereabouts. He left behind 13,000 complaints that his health department simply ignored. This isn't about resources or staffing. Hawaii fixed this problem with simple right of entry laws. This is simply about political will, and Maryland Democrats have made their choice. Protecting politically connected operators matters more than protecting vulnerable seniors. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.